What if we were to take Jesus at his word? It's kind of a novel idea, actually. It seems like, well, of course we take him at his word. But if we're honest, we wish that we heard Jesus more clearly. But when we do, we have a tendency to pause, allow questions to form in our minds, and then to argue a little bit. I know, but surely you didn't account for this. I can't live up to that. And there are various things we know that Jesus says, but we are not so quick to do. I've been considering this since last Sunday when we read the Passion for Palm Sunday. It struck me in a way that it never had before when Peter stands up very boldly telling Jesus that he is ready to even die for him. Jesus says to Peter, "Pray that you do not undergo the test." Imagine what would have happened if Peter took Jesus at his word. Think about what did happen. Jesus said, "Pray that you do not undergo the test." And then he provided for him an incredible opportunity to pray. He took him out into the garden and he said, "Watch with me while I pray." He gave him another instruction. He gave him an incredible example of the Son of God praying. And Peter fell asleep. Jesus gave him another chance. He woke him up and said, "Can't you even stay awake and watch with me for 1 hour?" Imagine if Peter had taken Jesus at his word. Instead, he falls asleep again. His reaction is probably like that of many of us. We hear certain ideas about our faith. We know that there are certain things we should do, but we don't allow them to penetrate into our hearts the way that we should. Could we say that if Peter had engaged in the kind of prayer in the garden that Jesus did, the kind of prayer that Jesus invited him to, would he have handled things differently when Jesus was arrested? Would he have been willing to stand there when they accused him of being a disciple and he denied Jesus? If he had in fact prayed not to undergo the test, what might have happened? Why don't we take Jesus at his word? Very often we look at the life of faith, the practice of our Catholic life, and we can see that it is difficult. We find it to be burdensome in some ways. But too often we're like Peter. The things that Jesus tells us so that we can be supported in the practice of our faith, we hear as nice ideas, and then we fall asleep. We don't allow the words of Jesus to penetrate our hearts. We don't take him at his word. Tonight, we have this invitation as well, because the celebration of this Mass is not just a recounting of what happened on that night so long ago, but it is the same invitation. We could say with confidence that Jesus says those words to us, "Pray that you may not undergo the test." We don't know what our tests will be, or maybe we're in the middle of them right now, but we have an opportunity tonight to be invited into that prayer of Jesus. We will have adoration available for us in this period tonight after Mass until midnight. What would happen if we took Jesus at his word? Now, tonight we also celebrate the anniversary of the Last Supper. So we have a couple other examples of how we might take Jesus at his word. We have heard proclaimed in the readings today, Jesus saying, "Take and eat, take and drink, do this in remembrance of me." What if we took Jesus at his word? We have Jesus scandalizing the apostles by tying up his garments and washing their feet and saying, "As I have done, so you must also do"? What if we took Jesus at his word? What would our faith look like if we in fact took up and eat and drink and do in remembrance? What if in fact we were to follow the example and wash one another's feet as he tells us? What would happen then? Now for us, there is a profound theological understanding of these ideas that we should grasp. In the church, when we say something like, "Do this in remembrance," when Jesus says to us, "As I have done, so you must also do," the idea of remembering what happened is not at all just about a historical reenactment. Even though there will be an enactment of the washing of feet, even though we will, of course, say the same words in the consecration in just a moment. But the idea of memory in the Bible is something far more profound than just recall what happened once upon a time. It is about the present moment. It is about remembering something so profound that it has an impact on what we do today. From a human perspective, we might consider it in two of the biggest moments that we remember from just a human perspective. Think of someone's birthday and someone's anniversary. When we celebrate a birthday and an anniversary, we certainly are grateful for the moment in history when that began, when a child was born, when a wedding took place. But when we remember birthdays and anniversaries, we're not so much celebrating what happened then, we're celebrating who these people are now. We are celebrating what a person at a given age means to us. We are celebrating an anniversary not just of a wedding that took place, but very often of a family that has grown since that time. We are celebrating the power of that moment in the present. All the more so when we remember what Jesus commands us to do. What if we took Jesus at his word? When we celebrate the Eucharist, we recall the Last Supper. But the power of the Eucharist is what God is doing now. That moment in history was so profound, so imbued with the very life of God, that every time we do this in remembrance of him, it brings new grace, the presence of God now. The very gift of God that he intended for his disciples in every age, that he would be with us, that the presence of God that was celebrated in the Old Testament would take on a form unimaginable, that the same Jesus would make himself present, and not just present, but food, so that what we remember is something that we take into our very lives. And so our remembrance is to say that we are transformed because Christ himself takes up his residence in us. We become walking tabernacles. Jesus says, "Those who eat my flesh and drink my blood will live forever." What if we took Jesus at his word? When we carry out the instruction that Jesus gave to do as he has done, to wash one another's feet, we have the reminder of Jesus preaching. "I was naked and you clothed me. I was hungry and you fed me. I was in prison and you visited me." And they say, "Jesus, when did we do these things?" And he said, "When you do them for the least of me, you do it for me because I am present in that need." What if we took Jesus at his word? What if we were to embrace the command to, in fact, look for the opportunity to wash one another's feet, so that Christ, who is present in the vulnerable and the poor and the weak, could strengthen those who look for the disciples of Jesus to show compassion? What if we, who had become walking tabernacles, allowing the presence of Christ in us to be so present that when we left the doors of the church and we noticed the needs of people around us, we carried the presence within us to encounter the presence of Jesus with the weak and the vulnerable, where he tells us we can find him. What if we took Jesus at his word? Tonight, we have an opportunity that Jesus gave to Peter, an opportunity that he failed to recognize, and so he denied Jesus. Tonight, Jesus issues the same invitation to us. Watch and pray with me. Take and eat with me. Wash one another's feet with me. If we allow Jesus to carry out his plan in our lives today, our lives will be radically different. We will face the challenges that Peter faced, but we can rise to the occasion on the power that Christ also gives. And so reflect in the coming days as we move toward Easter. What would happen if we took Jesus at his word?